Call of Duty has been making games for over 20 years now. Out of those 20 years, almost 5 of them have been cross-platform. That just means that you're able to play Call of Duty with other people on different platforms that aren't the same platform you play on. For example, let's say you play on PlayStation, but you have a friend who plays on Xbox. That's okay because Call of Duty allows you to play with that friend on Xbox, even though you're on PlayStation. It also applies to anyone on PC as well. You can play on PC but still play with friends who are on console, and vice versa. This was a feature that was first introduced in Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2019 and has been in every Call of Duty since. What I find interesting is when Call of Duty became cross-platform back in 2019, there were 2 things that got dramatically increased within Call of Duty and have stayed increased since. Those 2 things being aim assist and skill-based matchmaking. These 2 things were never as strong in previous years before 2019. While there was aim assist and there was a form of skill-based matchmaking in Call of Duty, it was never as strong as it was upon the release of Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2019 and every Call of Duty after that. Even today, within the newest Call of Duty, that being Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3, the aim assist and skill-based matchmaking is still a lot stronger than it once was. In fact, I would even go as far to say that they have been increased even more this year. This is the reason why I think making Call of Duty cross-platform actually ruined Call of Duty. If Call of Duty was never made cross-platform, then the aim assist and skill-based matchmaking would have never been ramped up to the point it is at now. At least that was my mindset until I realized one thing. There are a lot of other games that are cross-platform, competitive first-person shooter games in particular, that don't have this problem. Just to name a few, there's Apex Legends, Battlefield, Fortnite, Destiny, and more. All of those games seem to do just fine balancing their aim assist and skill-based matchmaking. So why does Call of Duty have such a problem with both of these things? Well, honestly, I think the reason is because the developers don't care. For example, skill-based matchmaking has been complained about for years now by the majority of the Call of Duty community, and yet the developers have done nothing to properly balance it. Aim assist, on the other hand, isn't as complained about, as most people are controller players in Call of Duty. But for the keyboard and mouse players, it is most definitely complained about because aim assist is so powerful in Call of Duty that it literally puts keyboard and mouse players at a disadvantage. If you look at other competitive first-person shooter games, even ones that are cross-platform, keyboard and mouse is always the better option. That doesn't mean that using a controller you can't compete at all, it just means typically keyboard and mouse is generally more used. I think that aim assist is definitely needed for controllers to compete with keyboard and mouse, and that's perfectly fine. But there should be a limit to how much aim assist controllers get. Most competitive first-person shooter cross-platform games have this limit. They seem to have a good balance to where controller is definitely usable in-game and can compete against keyboard and mouse players, but isn't so powerful that it's broken and legit gives you a serious advantage. While yes, keyboard and mouse is still the favorite input, controllers can still do good too. So why can't Call of Duty find this balance and get it figured out? Well, I'm not sure. If other games that are similar to Call of Duty can do it, then so can Call of Duty. Or at least that's how it should be. But for whatever reason, the aim assist in Call of Duty is so cranked up that it's literally giving people an advantage, and it is the dominant input in the game. Even pro Call of Duty players use controller over keyboard and mouse, and that should say something. But what does this have to do with Call of Duty being cross-platform, you might ask? Well, if keyboard and mouse players never started to go up against controller players, and vice versa, then the developers would have never jacked up aim assist to the point it's at now. Now, given the developers could just fix aim assist and make it more balanced so that it's not as powerful as it is now. So honestly, at the end of the day, it's their fault, not the fact that the game is cross-platform's fault. The same can be said about skill-based matchmaking as well. At first glance, it seems like making Call of Duty cross-platform was the reason why skill-based matchmaking got ramped up so much. The developers needed a way to make people playing on PC not have a crazy advantage over console players. This would make sense at first, as maybe a system in place to make the 2 platforms more balanced is a good idea. But of course with Call of Duty they overdid it, like with aim assist, as skill-based matchmaking is broken in Call of Duty currently. It's so bad that I would go as far to say that it's plaguing the game. Skill-based matchmaking has effectively killed the casual aspect of Call of Duty, as now Call of Duty is extremely competitive, all because of skill-based matchmaking. You pretty much can't go a single match in Call of Duty without everyone sweating their ass off and trying their absolute hardest. This results in an extremely competitive environment. It's sad to see because Call of Duty is supposed to be a casual first-person shooter game. That's what it was made to be and what it was originally, but skill-based matchmaking has ruined that. The reason being is because skill-based matchmaking is forcing you to go up against people of your skill level constantly, which means you can never really have an easy game or even a mixed game of Call of Duty anymore. Really, the only way to get easy matches is to abuse the skill-based matchmaking system and reverse boost or use other methods to get easier lobbies. But other than that, you have to just deal with it. Once upon a time when connection-based matchmaking was still a thing in Call of Duty, all that mattered when matchmaking was how good of a ping you could get in the lobby. Pretty much the matchmaking system would try to connect you to a lobby with the best possible ping instead of based on skill levels, which would result in a lobby of people with all sorts of different skill levels in it. But really, it was all at a random. Sometimes you would get a really hard lobby, or other times you'd get a really easy lobby. But honestly, most of the time, it would just end up being a pretty mixed bag of people of all skill levels. Unfortunately, with skill-based matchmaking being at the intensity it's at now, this kind of style of matchmaking is dead, and I don't think it is coming back. It's easy to blame the fact that Call of Duty became a cross-platform game. However, let's look again at other similar games. There's plenty of competitive first-person shooter games that also have a form of skill-based matchmaking in it and are also cross-platform, yet their skill-based matchmaking is nowhere near as bad as Call of Duty's. So if other games are able to do it, then why can't Call of Duty? Well, again, it falls on the developers for not fixing it. Even though Call of Duty is cross-platform, that's no excuse to have broken aim assist in a broken skill-based matchmaking system. I think while their intentions were to balance the game better for cross-platform, they just overdid it. Now, the smart thing to do would be to fix both the aim assist and skill-based matchmaking by lowering both of them and making them similar to other competitive first-person shooter games. But will they ever do that? Well, maybe eventually. I think that if we continue to vocalize their complaints about them, then just maybe they will eventually decide to fix them. However, as of now, it does not look like they want to do anything about both aim assist and skill-based matchmaking. The developers have recently mentioned skill-based matchmaking in a recent post when talking about future updates, so they might be finally looking into adjusting it soon, but who knows. As for aim assists, this is something that still hasn't been talked about at all. I think unfortunately they want to keep the controller as the more dominant input within Call of Duty, at least for right now, which does suck for keyboard and mouse players who don't want to have to switch over to controller at all. Personally, as a keyboard and mouse player, I feel there are gunfights that I definitely should have won, but I didn't because the other player was a controller player and their aim assist would lock onto me and destroy me. This is something that honestly happens all the time. With keyboard and mouse, everything is about precision. I have to be the one to get on target and stay on target. It is all dependent on me and my abilities to properly aim and track the target. With controller, you don't have the precision that keyboard and mouse has. So yes, you do need aim assist to compete. However, when the aim assist is as strong as it is in Call of Duty, it becomes a problem. With the aim assist in Call of Duty, you're able to lock onto the target and stay on the target even when the target is moving around. There's no work required at all. You could just let aim assist do all the work for you. Yet on keyboard and mouse, you still have to do all the work to get on target and stay on target. So who do you think will win the gunfight if a controller player and keyboard and mouse player go up against each other? The person who has to do all the work themselves to get on target, or the automated system that locks on the target instantaneously? Obviously, it would be the automated system that locks onto the target instantaneously. This is why aim assist is so broken in Call of Duty, simply because it's way too powerful. As I said, take a look at any other competitive first-person shooter game that is cross-platform, and you'll see that aim assist is not too powerful within that game. Now, there could be an argument that if Call of Duty never turned into a cross-platform game, then the developers would have never bothered to increase the aim assist and skill-based matchmaking to the point it is at now. Which, yes, this would be true, however, it still falls on the developers for not balancing both aim assist and skill-based matchmaking to a reasonable point. Instead, they just jacked it up really high and didn't care to do any balancing. So I wouldn't say that making Call of Duty cross-platform is the reason to blame for aim assist and skill-based matchmaking being way too powerful. It's still simply just the developers' fault and will continue to be until they finally do something to balance these two things. In conclusion, after Call of Duty was turned into a cross-platform game back in 2019, the aim assist and skill-based matchmaking has been way too powerful since. So is Call of Duty turning cross-platform the reason for this? Well, at first glance, it seems like it is, until you look at other competitive first-person shooter games that are also cross-platform. Most of them have aim assist in the game and a form of skill-based matchmaking. However, they're nowhere near as powerful as they are in Call of Duty. So how come other games are able to balance their aim assist and skill-based matchmaking system, but Call of Duty can't? Well, I think it's because the developers don't care enough to actually balance them, even though fans of Call of Duty have been complaining about them for years now. That begs the question, will Call of Duty ever balance the aim assist and skill-based matchmaking in their games? Well, I'm not sure. I think that maybe they eventually will, but who knows when that'll be. It's sad that we even have to ask that question, as they should have already balanced them by now. They are both plaguing Call of Duty and hurting the experience rather than helping it, so change needs to happen sooner than later. No one wants to deal with broken aim assist and a broken skill-based matchmaking system. It's honestly unacceptable. Ultimately, while Call of Duty becoming cross-platform was the reason that the developers ramped up both aim assist and skill-based matchmaking, it's still the developers' fault for not balancing them properly, not the fact that Call of Duty is now cross-platform. That's it for me though. Do you think Call of Duty becoming cross-platform was the reason for aim assist and skill-based matchmaking being way too powerful? Or is it the developers' fault? Let me know in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, then please give it a like. And if you want more content like this, then subscribe. Have a great day, everyone.